What brought me to this couch? My goodness gracious, that's a long journey.
Hi, so my name's Zach. My pronouns are he and they. I'm a trans man. I sort of lean towards trans masc. I'm sort of rediscovering gender and things at the moment. I run a community group here in Adelaide with the assistance of some fantastic co-facilitators called Trans Masc SA.
My name is Emmerich Prout. I use they, them pronouns. I started identifying under the LGBT umbrella when I was about 13. Since then I've identified as many different labels. I've explored a lot of communities. I now identify as agender and just queer. I have a wonderful family that involve 2 partners and our gorgeous little child, Arthur. Arthur is being raised gender creatively, meaning we don't assign a gender to Arthur. We're waiting until Arthur lets us know.
My name is Jenny Scott. My pronouns are she and her. I transitioned in 1993. It was a time of a lot of activism, but it was also a huge education for me. I was quite surprised when somebody first called me an activist. I didn't know I was. I thought I was just speaking up for myself.
My name is Kelly Vincent. My pronouns are they, them, she, her, he, him, in that order. I'm queer, I'm neurodivergent, I'm all the things. I'm also a disability and broader human rights advocate, so anti-discrimination work is a big thing for me professionally and personally.
Transphobia can be a very deeply personal experience. It's amazing how most people who are trans, the worst experience of transphobia comes from within their own families quite often.
It's something that's so insidious, it's almost hard always to think of examples because I think a lot of it becomes normalised or kind of casual queerphobia, if you like. But obviously, you know, I had difficulty coming out to family back in the day.
I have unfortunately had some incidences with transphobia. Biphobia has been a big one for me. Unfortunately, I remember pre-transition, my partner at that point was female, and you'd get the sexualized woo-woo kind of comments, and now I get the kind of gross homophobic slurs and on a couple of occasions threats.
Throughout the years, I have had my fair share of microaggressions. I feel the biggest transphobia that I've ever received would be during my pregnancy. There was a time at a hospital and I was 10 weeks pregnant, and every single nurse and doctor that came through to assess me with hushed tones quietly asked if it was a wanted pregnancy. It made me feel very uncomfortable. We had a nurse asking a few questions that I try to answer those that I can. She was asking me around bottom surgery, and after I let her know that that wasn't an appropriate question to ask and that trans people don't have to be ashamed of their bodies, she then proceeded to tell Jordan and I that we were making things confusing because I was going by Papa and Jordan was going by Mama, whereas I was the gestational parent. I ended up leaving the hospital more sick with anxiety than I ended up there with. The good thing that did come out of that was that my GP then made a formal complaint, and all of the staff have gone through sensitivity training around queer issues. And recently we did have to go back there with Arthur, and everyone was perfect.
Some of our legislation has been really quite transphobic. I remember having to stand in front of a court of law to tell a judge based on a bunch of pieces of paper after having surgery and being like, yes, I want to change my gender marker to male, and this judge who didn't know me from anything was like, sure, all of these pieces of paper say you can do that. So whilst that's not out in the community, you know, it's a pretty big systemic transphobic action. Thankfully that legislation doesn't exist anymore, but I mean, I've even gone to doctors and, you know, you've literally just got a sore throat and, you know, the doctors looked at my file and gone, oh, you're transgender. Do you think it's your hormones? I've even been blatantly told by medical professionals, sorry, I don't treat your type of person here.
Things like even, you know, interviewing for new disability support workers and getting as far as having a worker in my home, interviewing her with my partner at the time, who was a woman, having her agree to the shift and then later text me saying, sorry, I actually can't provide you services because I'm a Christian and your lifestyle conflicts with that. So it's something that's still very much happening, and again has that real broad impact on people's lives, because for me that means that if disability service providers have the right to discriminate who they provide services to on the basis of sexuality, for me that isn't just about having to deny or separate my queerness. It actually means that I have to choose between being my true self or having the support I need to literally get out of bed in the morning, which is pretty terrifying, honestly.
People who would vilify us and discriminate against us, for them, that's their politics. For us, this is our lives. And so we can't lose, because if we lose ourselves.
In terms of, continuing with trying to make South Australia a better place for our LGBTIQA+ community, let's actually get people in positions of leadership and power who are from different community groups. Have those voices represented, not just about consulting, but get them at the table, holding a space at the table ongoingly, not just as a consultation.
I think we could learn a lot from kids in that respect. Like, I talk to so many kids about disability and gender and stuff, and their response is always, okay, but how do I play with you? How do I meet you in the middle with who you are? And I think adults could learn a lot from that. Actually recognizing that really simple things go a long way to inclusivity. Asking what someone's pronouns are, apologising and moving on quickly if you misgender someone, and not making a huge deal out of it. Providing questions about healthcare regardless of gender, so removing that gendered language.
Through my pregnancy, everything was gendered towards women. To begin with, you get sent to the women's assessment clinic, which isn't a women's assessment clinic, because even if they were marketing it towards cis women, not all cis women go there. Pregnant people go there. So really it should be a pregnancy assessment clinic. And then the book that I got with all my pregnancy information, all of it had gendered language through it. On the front of the book that I had to carry everywhere, it has a line drawing of a feminine figure with breasts, which, as someone who chose top surgery due to dysphoria, I didn't really want to be seeing that every time that I was going to the hospital excited to see my child. The hospital staff did amazingly and did what they could, but at the end of the day, it's all down to what they legally had to do.
With people, yes, they can now marry and they can do all of that, but I still can't go to the doctor and be able to access a service without being misgendered, without being asked about what's in my pants, without being asked, also, who are you sleeping with? It's like, I'm not here for that. People just want to be able to have the same access and human rights as any other person walking down the street. Any other person rolling down the street using their walking aid. We just want to be seen, heard, and to be able to do the things that help us feel included, feel valued, celebrated. It's not much to ask. It's human rights.
I think particularly now that we have marriage equality, I think a lot of people outside of the community kind of think that equality for queers is done now. I think the queer community also has a long way to go in becoming intersectional, particularly as a physically disabled person. A lot of queer events and venues are not accessible to me still, so I think it's a great opportunity to not only address the barriers that continue to exist in the broader community, but also reflect within our own communities as well about how we can better support each other as queer people.
It occurred to me that it's not just about LGBTQI inclusion, because I believe that while any minority is discriminated against, we're all at risk of being discriminated against. There's a cost to the broader community that comes with discrimination and vilification and marginalisation. So I don't think that we as an LGBTQI community can just think in terms of ourselves. While we don't value everyone's lives equally, and I don't think we do, as a nation or as a world. Until all of our laws are equal for all people, we're all at risk of falling into one of those other categories that, you know, will be treated as less. So I think we just have to say, yes, every life is equal and every life is valuable, and every life can contribute to us as a community if they're just given the chance.